in this video we're gonna talk about Godforge monetization. Now, if you already have Godforge, which means that you will view this video in the distant future with respect to what you have now, you see that I have a crazy inventory. This is because I played the alpha. This was the alpha version back in the day. So Godforge is gonna be a lot better than what you're seeing right now. But for an alpha, this was an excellent game already. This is the Golden Guardian, by the way. So this is a hero collector game where basically heroes can also fire out of turn. For example, you can see in the middle Hercules, who can have an ultimate skill. There you go. And now the ultimate skill is fired. So what we're gonna talk about today is gonna be monetization of Godforge. And as soon as I get the video out of the window, just a moment, then we will get started, because I selected some very important points from the podcast. So I will make sure to display what my stance is on Godforge monetization. Let's hear Simon for the first 10-20 seconds.
You can't really please anyone. Okay, so some people will say, well, you're meant to be coming with this new age studio. Everything should be for free. We should get everything we want straight away. And obviously there needs to be a bit of a reality check that...
Exactly. Enough said. So, reality check. Are the founders doing this for free? Did they risk their time, their money, or did they not risk their time or money? Do the engineers, the designers, the product managers, all the other staff work for free? This is a very interesting situation, because back in the days, I sold a lot of books, courses individually on the American, or actually international market, on software engineering, AI, many other topics. And then, as I was working as a software engineer, then engineering manager, then one of my colleagues asked me, why are you doing all these things? I believe information should be free, or should be for free. And I was like, listen, you're correct. The information is free right now. It's available on the internet. In fact, even Godforge information is free and available on the internet. You can right now go to the internet and check out some of these Godforge heroes, like their stats. Maybe you can figure out the damage model and then implement the game yourself, and good luck, play alone. There is a community building in here. There are so many things. And in these specific situations, especially that Godforge is being compared by Raid, not by the founders, by the content creators on a massive scale. Raid Shadow Legends, And many people say that Raid is that predatory game. Actually, it's cleansing massively, not because it wants to cleanse, but because the competition forces Raid to cleanse. At the same time, the biggest suicide that can happen to Godforge itself, and it is in none of the interest of neither player base, not even the free-to-play players, is, listen, we're gonna be more ethical than Raid, therefore, we're the Samaritanians, everything is gonna be for free. And then you're gonna wait for the next content drop, just like in case of Ethereum restart. Do you want this or do you not want this? I would prefer a good game. A solid game. And do you know what leads to this? Honesty, sincerity, and this is what's happening in this podcast so far. Let's move, because monetization is a function of trust. Now, let's move to 8 minutes approximately. Let's see.
There's one pack and it's got like, you buy part 1, it unlocks part 2, then part 3.
1, part 2, part 3.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe Corey, I don't even know if we've got those on the initial roadmap, have we?
There when we first launched in early access. And then as far as like how any specific kind of offer design exists, we're going to be iterating and testing it out in a live environment and getting lots of feedback and seeing what actually works with the community. We can have hypotheses for why a certain offer design will perform well, but until you actually do it and you start seeing what happens, you really don't know. For example, if the string packs in Raid Shadow Legends would do well in Godforge.
Exactly. You don't know it. We don't know it either. And if it's something that is not for me, I will not buy it. That's it. But who am I to say whether you should include it or whether you should not include it? Maybe some people enjoy these string packs. It's not enjoy with respect to other packs, because we understand that monetization in general has a somewhat dark side to it as well. And it's not always genuine enjoyment, but sometimes when you surprise yourself with some extra progression and it's consistent with the narrative that you imagine yourself, because your gameplay is a journey from one point to an end station when you're offboarded from the game. Some people are never offboarded, at least as long as they are alive. Or as long as the service is alive. Other people get offboarded for certain reasons. Life gets in the way. They basically reached their goals, which means that there is not much more content, or they have reached fatigue. Now, between you reach your start and end, so in between these 2 points, progression can be meaningful to you, which means that if I hate string packs, it's possible, or it's possible that I don't. I don't know, I've never purchased a string pack in my life. So if I hated string pack, for example, but this is one of the best things where you don't know what you're getting, you're surprised, you're excited. You don't know exactly what you're getting in the future, but you're excited because you see that you're getting some indication of what the end price is gonna be, and whatever is in between is, well, you can decide each time that you're gonna quit. You know what my idea is gonna be in these cases? So first of all, I believe in transparency, which means that even if the offer is bad, you just display the offer, that somehow you know what you're gonna buy. Because if you don't know what you're gonna buy until you get the next reward, it's kind of a borderline thing, borderline shady thing. The reason why it's a borderline shady thing is that, and it sells badly actually in that case. So the reason why it sells badly and it's a borderline shady thing is that if you sell a lottery ticket where you don't know what's coming, and people buy the lottery ticket, they don't buy the current item that they want, they buy the lottery ticket, that what could appear in the future. In that case, it's a semi-shady thing. Simply because people buy a promise, or not a promise that they're gonna get something. Whether it's good or bad, it depends on design. I would personally make sure that people know about it. Now, if I was presented with this offer and I knew the rules up front, that listen, this is a string pack, we will tell you what the first part of the string is, we will also tell you what at the end of the string is, and whatever is in between is mystery. In that case, and we don't even know the price. In that case, if price monotonously increases and you see the end price, that's already an amazing thing. Let's see rate string pack. So, and by the way, there are websites that track what rate string packs could be in general. Let's see rate string pack images. So basically what happens in RAID, let me open an image about this. This is a string pack, for example. Here it is. Bonus offer. The fifth one gives you 20 void shards. And you see this is a string pack number 6. And whenever you're in between, so whenever you're on the first step, let's see the first step of the string pack, of an other string pack potentially, special ancient pack, for example, these are ancient shards. I will open it. This is what you can see. I'll make it a bit larger because this is the low resolution thing. That you see number 1, you don't know what the hell number 4 is gonna be, and maybe you know, maybe you don't know what number 6 is gonna be, but it's hidden from you. Then it's very simple. Are these 30 ancient shards plus 1225 gems plus 2.2 million silver worth for you right now for 59.99, or are they not worth for you right now for this amount of money? If they are worth for you in themselves, and this is what you want to get, you get it. If not, then you don't get it. And the price is not meant to include a key that unlocks the second offer or the third offer. So this is kind of an exclusive thing. That as long as I would say that the ethical nature of this can be very borderline. String packs can work or string packs cannot work. It depends. If pricing is relatively okay in itself, just for that amount of item that you're buying in the first part of the string pack, for example, and you get a good enough deal in there, and progression is for free for the second pack, third pack, and so on, in that case, what can go wrong? In case you have an extreme pack, let's suppose that you hint that at the end you get something crazy. And the first item is like $10. And you hint that the last item may be something like $30, $40, who knows. And you have a $500 step and step 3 or step 4 that gives you garbage. A lot of people just buy the $10 first pack in the string just so that they can progress to the very last one, and then they figure out there is the $500 element. This is borderline shady at best. And if I see something like this in a game, and I'm lured into buying the first packs because whatever, I budgeted something and I'm fine with spending. Let's suppose I'm fine with spending. And if I see this, I will never ever touch a string pack in my life. It won't show up in the dashboard. It won't show up in the metrics, but I will never ever touch string packs in my life, at least for that game. And I stop the string, sunk cost basically. I say this far, not further. Anyone who has played poker in the past understands. As long as you are not pot committed, which means that you have better odds of winning. If you just push your remaining chips in, and you have better odds of winning than than the pot odds that you're getting. If this is the case, in that case it's fine. I put all my chips in. But if I find a way for myself to escape from the pot when the other opponent is all in, and I see that I'm beaten, let's say 80% of the time, and I still have a lot of chips left, and I'm not getting that 4-1 odds, in that case I just walk away from the pot straight away. So if I see a horrible offer, I walk away from the offer and I will never try a string pack again in my life. This is the risk. This is where players burn trust capital. So this is why it's important. But just understand what Godforge community is saying, so Simon as well as Corey. We're interested in figuring out what gameplay is gonna be about, so that players get engaged. Isn't this an amazing thing in itself? And then of course you add monetization here and there. You've heard of string packs from the industry, you add string packs. And you see how they perform. Now, I would warn against one thing, the blindness of measurement metrics, because data are to be interpreted in context. And that context can mean that, okay, some people just complete the string pack because of sunk cost, other people don't. Other people just fall off. And you have some data, X% completed the string pack. But the dashboard is not gonna say, in that case, who lost trust capital because they found something hidden from them that could have been presented. That's why string packs are a double-edged sword. They can be done in a quite okay way, they can be done in a horrible way. In general, when you don't know what the hell you're buying, this was one huge issue in Era of Chaos, by the way, sometimes when odds were not presented transparently. We're walking in thin ice. And sometimes it's part of the game, sometimes it's not part of the game. So I don't have an answer to this. And honesty is still better than saying one thing and doing another. So being honest about it and owning it and experimenting with it and maybe burning a few players' trust and then iterating on it and then letting go of string packs is still a better thing than saying that we'll never try out string packs and one day it appears. Because then the appearance of the string pack itself is what's going to burn trust. Here we have on a high trust level at the moment, so this is amazing. Nothing wrong with announcing this. And then let's see 12:30. There was 12:30 approximately where Simon says the following.
And honest, the final part of that string is going to be the best value, because ultimately whoever's designing these things, they want you to buy the whole thing, right? So sure. let's be clear, it's by design. And then likelihood is the first part of it feels really, really nice, so it gets you in the mix. The second and third part are kind of reasonable, and then the last part's really good. And that's just a reality. And look, we're not going to try and reinvent the wheel. We do have to make money. One of the things I've always said is I don't want us to come across as like really predatory with our offers and our packs. And I really want to stand by that. But it doesn't mean that we won't use, like common sense ways of selling something, because as I say, we do have to generate revenue and all that type of stuff. So yeah.
Okay. So let's see what we've heard. This is the proper description of a string pack. And as you can see from the description, every single step except from the fourth in this specific example description is at least reasonable. So I would say, based on common sense, the fourth item is the worst. Now, I'm exaggerating on purpose. If the string pack is like $10, $15, $20 for the third one, $500 for the fourth one, and you get a piece of garbage, and let's say $25 for the fifth one, and you get some excellent deal. In that case, players will still have a chance to walk away with a very good thing, the first one, and two reasonable things. And you just say, these are the rules of the game, that's it. But those $500 will burn a few players from ever purchasing anything again from the game. So that's just the reality as well of player psychology from the end of it's like a microeconomy versus macroeconomy. If you view it from the macroeconomic side, enough players will buy it. If you view it from the microeconomic side, every single player has a filter, and some people just take things seriously, far too seriously. And when they see that $500 offer, they will exaggerate that this is basically a predatory design. And then they will start writing everywhere on the internet, and we don't want that. This is why we're walking on thin ice, because as long as monetization is reasonable, so you get some good value for your buck. Good enough value. Some better, some worse. In that case, you still don't get these extreme traps that I was talking about. And if you say that string packs are hidden on purpose, then if you don't like it, just don't play. That's kind of straightforward. And at the time of... So actually this is not even illegal, because at the time of the purchase, you know what you are buying, and you are not buying a promise of the future item, because the transaction says 500 gems in exchange for $5, for example. And you decide, is it a good deal, is it a bad deal? It's a good deal, you buy. In itself. And then comes the second offer. And of course, the company has the right to target you with offers. You know what would be dishonest from the Godforge team, which they don't do, by the way? I have seen a couple of videos from Ash, the raid content creator. And there was a specific video, I don't remember when exactly, but it was around Christmas. I was just looking for some, what is going on in raid in terms of extreme spending, and Ash bought quite a lot of red shards. I think they are called primal shards. The red one with the mythical champion, 0.5% chance, and if it's 2x, then it's 1%. And he got some extremely bad deal. like 4 shards for $80 or something. I'm exaggerating here once again because it's far too expensive. And he bought it just for the sake of providing proper entertainment in the video, because he's very much like an actor in that specific case, and he's putting on an excellent show. And you know what happened a few minutes after? He got an offer of 20 primal shards in exchange for less money than what he purchased back in the days, because he presented himself as a fish and Plarium as a fishing boat, and he basically caught the fish. Self-irony, obviously. And then he made a very bad deal, and a few minutes later Plarium gave him an excellent deal, because the algorithm says, here is someone who is likely gonna spend a lot more money because he made a very bad deal. Let's give him a very good deal so that we maximize our revenue. What is this? Isn't this a hidden string pack? So this is what I'm saying. If Godforge was saying we will never experiment with string pack ever, in that case, it would not be honest as soon as I saw this in any videos of Ash, for example, that right after you made a bad purchase, you're gonna make a very good purchase because it's presented just for you. It's a string pack, it's just disguised as something else. That's why. So I would not say don't do a string pack, I'm just saying that don't sell it in a way where a lot of players can burn themselves and then start going to Reddit and whatever other places. And you see where the line is, and you will be able to experiment with that line. Let's see the next. 1550. We've spent enough time with or on this packs. Next one.
Yeah, there's definitely this dynamic where if everything in the game is for sale,
the question was if everything can be bought for money in the game. And in Era of Chaos specifically, I know exactly what it feels like to have horrible content that is just there for skipping. You pay to skip. So when people add content just to be skipped, that's where the problems lie. And you don't want that. What you want is genuine, entertaining content that keeps people hooked for a long time. Discovery. And if someone wants to accelerate their progress, they can. But imagine that in 2 dimensions, for example, there is a coordinate system, x coordinates, y coordinates. 3 dimensions, there are 3, like x, y, z, or z for British. And for a 20-dimensional space, there are 20 of these vectors, unit vectors, that point at 20 different directions in a 20-dimensional space. It's hard to imagine it, but it's very much like you can imagine the 4th dimension with time, that it's there now, but it won't be there in 5 minutes, for example. But how you imagine a 20-dimensional space, I have no idea. It doesn't even matter. What matters is that you can make progress in the game in, let's say, 20 different ways. And out of those 20, let's say you can accelerate your progress in 8 of them with money. And 12 of them are gonna be your gameplay. Let's see what I'm talking about in Raid specifically. No matter how much money you spend, you will have to earn your stripes here. Okay, you can criticize my choice of affinity. You have a lot more experience than me, but you have to earn your stripes, right? You can criticize this one too, but right now I'm building Demon Lord, just Demon Lord. Why? Because I'm fed up with like waiting for 8-9 minutes for a 50 million damage. And I'm looking for an 80 million. And I'm doing everything to get that Demon Lord team set up properly so that I can basically make sure to minimize that amount of time. This is kind of fair game. And what else did I do? This spider was so high because I didn't have a spider champion and I was missing it for the Arbiter mission. I earned my stripes. It's not possible to buy this. You have to go to the arena and fight. There is no other way. This was my Hell Hades Challenge 2025 account, by the way. I'm not doing it every single day, maxing it out. But whenever I have time, lifetime-wise, it's fine. So something There are some things that you can get, there are other things you cannot. Let's hear Corey.
You're essentially telling the players that you're spending money not to play the game. And in games where one or two vectors of content are not directly for sale, maybe you can like buy energy to grind for it. But that's telling the player that everything else is there to optimize for these couple of vectors. And so you have a reason to go through the loops. And also the players who have stuck around the longest, there's a difference between their experience and someone who comes in on their first day and, you know, goes to town on the store. That said, the question is interesting because it's almost the exact opposite of the day-to-day reality for a developer working on a brand new game.
Okay. So you see that some things can be purchased, other things cannot be purchased, and this is fine this way. So there is a game mode called Restricted Domain in Era of Chaos. Basically what's happening is that you go to certain floor, for example here floor 101. This is a specific floor. You saw it enough. You have to do this every single week on Era of Chaos. Without exception. Or you buy a VIP card and you skip content. Everyone hates this content. And the more developed your account, the worse this content gets. Because then you'll have to wait over and over and over again every single week until those 200 battles are over if you don't have VIP card. But if you have VIP card, you can reduce your number of battles to 2 or 3 or 5. This is not content. This is a monetization engine disguised, a low engagement monetization engine disguised as content. And this is where I'm drawing my red line. That whenever you sell, you create a problem, and that problem is not genuinely enjoyable by the players, and then you sell the solution. Don't worry, you just buy VIP card, $10 a month or $20 a month. You get some goodies, whatever that is, and you don't have to worry about that piece of content. This is when whoever says, I am not gonna get coerced into forced buying that VIP card just because the game said so. So I will either create a macro that does it, and then just like mining Bitcoin, you know, we're mining these levels, or we just don't play it, or we just quit the game altogether. Partially I quit Era of Chaos because of Restricted Domain. Just saying, after 2 years. So this is where I draw the red line. When content is meant to offboard those players who choose not to take the specific step that you suggest in terms of monetization. And this is why it's really positive what Godforge is saying. Really, really positive. So both Corey as well as Simon. That they are looking for the base product to be good, and every metric that you have right now support that you have a product that is kind of unprecedented in the industry, and the product is not necessarily the product that you think it is, but it is the goodwill of the community. Your main product is the community. Your secondary product is that hero collector game where you put all your experience, know-how, and everything precisely crafted. But I'm personally saying this is secondary. And you know why I'm saying this? I have seen so many players quit from Era of Chaos in the last couple of months. There, in Era of Chaos, it's not usual to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, but I have access to quite a few players who have spent tens of thousands of dollars, at least. That's a huge thing in Era of Chaos. And they say, I was here for the community all along, or because of the community all along. By the way, there is a game and there is a hierarchy. Some people are motivated by status, other people are motivated by mastery, other people have narrative type of motivations that they tell themselves a story, and as long as that story is not fully invalidated in their minds, they keep on playing. And many of them pay money. The easiest way to invalidate this story is when you sell something that is not enjoyable. This is what I'm warning against. And this is very correct that you're not going that way. Because you design content that is genuinely enjoyable. You said you're gonna offboard content sometime in the future, so it's not like Raid that you have to grind every single month the same things over and over. Scarcity, you know inside out, even the limitations, I guess, after a few years. Doom Tower, same thing. It's just a ritual to be completed. And it's, let's put it this way, for a 5-year-old account or 2 years old account, what challenge does Doom Tower pose? You automate the whole thing, and you, let's say you go out and get some coffee for yourself, come back, is Doom Tower done? No, then let me read a book. After reading, or let me play my Nintendo collection or whatever else, or do some other things, and once it's ready, oh, finally, this piece of crap is ready. This is when you see that people will start paying just to skip it. And this is when you see it's time to offboard content. Unless you want to offboard players, which you have a right to do, but in that case, the community will suffer. And you've built such a good community. This is why we have this point. And the question is, and Corey said this, are heroes fun? Do they work together? If yes, then players will spend. Exactly, correct. It seems like that this team gets it. Many other teams don't get it. 1940 is next one. Calendars, brilliant idea.
And these calendars, it's sort of like a great win-win, because for the player to get everything out of the calendar, they have to keep coming back every day, which keeps them in the game, keeps them having fun, and keeps the community active, right? And then as from the developer's perspective, you can put a lot more content into this calendar.
Yeah. So calendars, once again, there are two types of players. So spenders, there are two types of spenders. One type of spender wants to get the best deal, and always, or most of the time, I'll focus back to Corey because he said it, most of the time, the best possible deals are gonna be your deals. You're the optimizer. And you try to make a good deal. Now, these good deals are sometimes not that good deals. You understand that, but as long as the story is alive in your mind, or you're driven by mastery, this could be a rationalization process in your mind. Doesn't matter, it's fine. We all pay for entertainment. Some people pay premium for entertainment. I pay a lot for entertainment at times as well. Or comfort, for that matter. But when I pay for comfort, for example, more legroom on an airplane, and that's quite a lot of money, in that case, the airplane was not designed just to screw the passengers over with less legroom. It was not the primary intention of the less legroom. The primary intention was to have enough passengers squeezed in an airplane so that the price of the ticket can be economically sane. And the price of this in exchange is that you have less legroom. If you want more legroom, you pay extra. Now, in some gacha games, let's say that restricted domain Hero of Chaos example, you do this on purpose to screw players over with low engagement content and then give them more legroom by being able to skip it. That's not necessarily something that I would understand or acknowledge. And when it comes to best offers or not that good offers, obviously some players are motivated by the best offers. Even if it says, okay, I know an apple is normally, let's say, $2 per 6 apples, and I made a good deal, or in a bio company it's like $4 for a bio apple. Or 6 bio apples, for example. These games tend to present pricing in a way that one apple is $5,000, so if you're getting 2 apples for $4,000 right now, it's a good deal. contrast bias. So this is called contrast bias. And if there is an issue with pricing in this specific sense, that let's say you can substitute 1 minute of work with $10, then you figure out that you rather do the 1 minute of work, at least most of you. If you see that you can let's say buy 6 months of grinding in exchange for a $20 pack, that is a tripwire, by the way, see Diablo Immortal. In that case, there is a problem that there is certain gatekeeping. At the same time, there are some very good offers, and Raid is not bad in its category in a sense that you see the different offers. I see the different offers as well. I just haven't ever bought anything in Raid. I've bought a lot of things in other games, but not in Raid, because there are some things that I'm looking for fixing in the game, and as long as they are not fixed, I refuse to spend anything in Raid. And possibly, as soon as Godforge comes around, there will be no reason for me to engage with Raid at all. Until basically the story, the narrative is complete. I have certain goals. As soon as those goals are ready, there is no reason to stay. Now, when it comes to Raid, the issue is that most of those offers are reasonably close to each other. Some of them are better, some of them are bad. But it's not like you get $1,000 of value for $1, and then you get some horrible deal that, let's say, an ancient shard is sold for $500. This just doesn't happen. So we don't have that extreme contrast. So that's fine. And the two types of players. One type optimizes, the other type wants things now. So a calendar is perfect. You have a routine. First day of the month, you have some special thing. Let's say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You have basically a calendar that rotates the shop. You need to rotate these things anyway, otherwise the shop is gonna be so cluttered that people will not find what the hell they want to buy. Raid does this as well, by the way. So rotating shop makes sense. And then people will figure out which offers appear and when. This makes sense. So, as long as content doesn't offboard people, it's fine. Let's see what else I wrote in this calendars topic. Of course, there needs to be a point where offers disappear to not clutter the shop. And you know what? This is an excellent thing, and I wrote this in the analysis. I'll show you the analysis itself. Here it is. That's my cheat sheet. That appreciate design based on choice rather than pain. The wrong type of stress, which is distress, kills retention. Excitement, eustress, helps retention. Cluttering creates distress. See Era of Chaos. Whether it works or not depends on the asset inflation rate. With too much power creep, we devalue our spending from today and increase the value of spending in half a year. Which means that I would rather hold on to my cash right now. I just do the dailies, whatever, or I tell my macros to do the dailies, not a problem. Someone plays the game instead of me most of the time, get the rewards, and I know that in half a year there is gonna be a huge power creep. So if I have a budget of X per month, let's say 20 per month, 50 per month, 10 per month, just like a subscription, and I have premium currency accumulated, which can be gems, can be crystals, can be anything, doesn't matter. I keep on accumulating them, and then see you in half a year. And I know that in half a year I'm gonna be in a position where most people have depleted currencies, like premium currency. I will have a ton. And most people will have spent a lot of money. And I was just accumulating. And in half a year I'm gonna buy. You know how boring this game is? So you don't want that much power creep, that fast power creep. Because that creates distress. Those who want to follow it are gonna get burned out. Those who don't want to follow it are gonna hoard, and this will create a type of stress that that is not ideal. Now, I understand the psychology of raid, that it works like a casino. You collect shards, these are your chips, and then you deploy your shards strategically. And the deployment of the shards, for those who are dopamine spike sensitive, create these dopamine rush like highs and lows. And those highs are sometimes memorable. They are either memorable because you got something unexpectedly good, or they are memorable, see Boozer for example, because you got some unexpectedly bad streak for 2 years and you didn't get a goddamn mythical for 2 years. They are memorable either way. And those who get memorable experiences or experience, they continue telling their story to themselves and stay engaged, which means better metrics on the dashboard and more money spent. So I understand this. As long as you can steer this as much as possible towards excitement, eustress, it's a positive type of stress. Everyone needs it. If you studied for an exam at school or university or college, you understand what this type of excitement is. Because going to a lecture and looking at a whiteboard where the professor basically writes down his book in a hardly readable way and just reads his book, what the hell am I doing in there? And I don't understand a damn thing about it, right? Has this ever happened to anyone? But then I know that I'm gonna get the exam in 5 days ready. I either do it or I fail. And failure is not an option, so I will do it. And in those 5 days, I have this excitement type of elevated heart pressure study. Actually, not elevated heart pressure that it's unhealthy, it's just excited. And after a while, I understand it so well, I go to the exam and I ace it. That's it. Distress is how am I gonna pay my bills today, tomorrow, next month, in 2 months, in 5 months. Shall I get a loan? How am I gonna pay back the loan? Shall I get a loan to pay back another loan? And this creates a life of misery. And people, well, there are some types of people who come back to relive their misery and reenact it because they got traumatized. This is called Stockholm Syndrome, as well as sunk cost fallacy for those who have spent too much and may rationalize continuing spending. We understand this. So we are going past this. We understand. At the same time, this is a negative type of stress, and then just think about it. Why are you in this world? So are you here to make people more miserable, or are you here to create memorable experience for people? And well, some people will feel more miserable. You cannot please everyone, that's fine. But as long as the intention is still there to channel energy towards positive type of stress in game design, then you've done a damn good job. And this is what I would recommend most of the time. And sometimes there is distress, obviously. Not everything can be perfect. There can even be bugs. And there can even be intentionally designed friction that some people narrate as if it was part of the gameplay, and other people narrate, oh, this is a piece of crap, I'm out of here. And as long as enough people are in the first camp, you did a good enough job for your target audience. This is the expectation, right? And this is why you're doing the whole thing. And then it's gonna be really profitable as well. I'll give you an example of myself as a raid player. In the first month, I was this close to quitting. I didn't have super raids. I didn't have any multi-battles. Background battles were not a thing back then. And a lot of things, and the artifact upgrades were just manual for quite a while, as far as I can remember. And then there were these horrible missions in the sewers. Everything randomized. Too much. And I figured out that, oh, and the Minotaur was like simple raided. Not even double. Not even the 2x was not a thing. And back in the days, I thought, what the hell is this? So I press a button and I wait for 2 minutes until the battle is over, and then I start again. And what is the engagement in this? And that's why I almost quit. So I experienced the bad type of stress. But you know what I did and what kept me in the game? I wanted to experience what people find good about Raid, because some people genuinely found it a good thing. And while the game was running in the background, I was studying, I was doing other things, I was thinking about team formation, I was thinking about doing some other things that I would otherwise need to do anyway. And then eventually I understood it. I didn't have to stream it. I don't even know. So basically for me to stream a new account on Raid for 5 hours, it's like prison. It's worse than work. So you understand, because then I would not be able to do anything else. And that's the constructive criticism of Raid. In Ethereum, I just say, okay, background battle administrated done. See you in 10 minutes. I go to another app. This is why true background multi-battles are so good. Because the strategical element is still there, but my phone doesn't have to be there. I go jogging and I can do something else while administrating Ethereum. You know, it runs in the background, and during jogging, let's say I can see something else. Let's say my running metrics. With Raid, I cannot do that. The Raid client has to be on to make any progress. So this is the thing. Based on choice rather than pain. Excitement rather than distress. Another enemy of spending is artificial meta shifts to keep creating FOMO. This issue is magnified when parameters of the meta shift are hidden. So that's why publishing the damage formula as much as possible and the skills and everything else, you're doing a damn good job about it already. Tweak sliding window amplifying utility of new tech. You know, there are some games, Era of Chaos included, that accelerated publishing of new units. And new is always better than old. Not sometimes, but always. And when you have this type of new is better than old, you know, in order to create an economy, you need certain small additive steps that make it scalable instead of having a multiplier everywhere. Because you don't want to know how much, let's say, doubling 100 times means 2 to the power of 100. Actually, you kind of know, because it's like you can substitute 2 by 10 or 2 with 10, and then the exponent is gonna be a bit smaller. Let's say 30 something, and then you have like 30 zeros. It's a huge amount. You don't want to have these types of amounts in the damage formula anyway. And when you don't have these amounts, and you just have this rock, paper, scissors mechanic, you scale properly. In some games, I'm quite certain that there is a sliding window. And as long as tech is new, it's in the sliding window, and no one explains the sliding window to you. And as soon as tech gets out of fashion, it drastically gets devalued. I see a game mode in one of the games where the patch updates are always on Tuesdays. On Monday I do something, and on Wednesday or to Sunday at any time I do the same thing. And I have a consistent difference of 40% approximately. So consistent means that I try not once, not twice, but let's say 5 times. And it consistently differs by 40%, not every week, but on some rare weeks. That's what power creep and the artificial meta shifts mean. And this is kind of something that burns people out. Because you see that as long as there is an invisible hand taking care of the player journey, that player journey is good. That's amazing. As soon as that invisible hand becomes so visible that you see that everything has a purpose of players spending more and more and more money out of frustration, that's when the gameplay element itself goes down the toilet, and people are gonna stay just for the purpose of validating their own egos, that they spend so much, so the game must be good, right? So then they continue being miserable. And we don't want this, we want engaging content. Okay, let's move on to 2730. So 2730, there it is. Here it is. The topic is different people have different appetite.
They're like predatory or just kind of like over ridiculous. But obviously we will be testing around different events. And let's say we get to the point where, you know, world bosses come in and it's like, okay, this will be a great time to summon on a particular banner. We will be testing different things around what's people's appetite to buy a larger pack potentially or what have you. And honestly, it's not unusual in this type of game now to have, okay, well, this is for someone who's perhaps on a budget and it's $20 for a pack. But this is someone who is just comfortable spending cash on this type of game. And this one's, you know, $99 a pack. We're not going to move away from that because it's also annoying, right? Like if I'm somebody who wants to actually spend the 99 and get myself, you know, 99 of this particular type of Aether Stone or Shard or whatever, you know, whatever game you're in, I don't want to have to buy that pack 5 times and have to go through the process on PayPal 5 times and that sort of thing. I just want to buy the pack that suits me. So again, we're not going to shy away from having those just because, you know, perhaps some people think we should. It doesn't make sense for us, and it actually doesn't make sense for a lot of our users that want to sort of, you know, spend on that scale, and that's their monthly budget.
So this is a perfect description of boundary violation of healthy psychological boundaries from the end of the player, projecting their own expectation onto the service provider. And this is on the player this time. Why? It's because if you think that the $99 pack is not for you, it doesn't mean that it's not for someone else. You buy the $20 pack, fine. In fact, in most games you get a better per dollar value for the $20 pack than for the 99 pack. Now, if it's, I don't fully agree with the description itself that it's annoying to go through the $20 5 times, and that's why I buy the 99, because in the 99 it's not like a bundle, like you go to some metro store, you know, where you get a retail price. For example, in Germany we have these kinds of stores that for resellers, and anyone who has some business can go there, not even if they are not in gastronomy. But the more expensive items are usually comparably worse than the cheaper items of the same sort. And the reason is marginal utility. So imagine that you're walking in a desert and you're offered a glass of water for some amount of money. You would spend your last cents to get that water, I guess, or more. Otherwise you die. This is when you badly want something. But if you have a lot already, you don't really want one more. Usually the way how economies solve this is not that they take advantage of these things, because there is another economical concept called elasticity, price elasticity. And in this specific case, the game doesn't sell you anything that is extremely scarce, although they are made scarce as possible to pump up the price, obviously. But the price elasticity of, let's say, an ancient shard is not gonna justify you buying it for $500 ever in raid, for example. Which means that the price of any shard in raid is relatively inelastic. Which means in turn that you get your smaller packs first for good value, and the larger packs are comparably usually worse value, slightly worse. So this is when this explanation doesn't fully hold, but let's say that for the sake of the example, you have a $20 pack for 20 items, and you have a $99 pack for 99 items or 100 items. We just do a rounding error, doesn't matter. Let's suppose that you get the same per dollar value. In that case, obviously you go for the 99 if you would have bought the 5 packs anyway. By the way, the reason why the explanation doesn't fully hold is that whenever you have a pack of 5 or a pack of 10, it is very easy to do a slider in the user interface, slide up to 5, and you get all 5 packs with one purchase. It's possible to do it. You can even do a proper invoice on that. Automated, problem solved, and the user is gonna get their user experience. But In this specific case, what I made as notes, so I will share my notes with you about exactly this topic. So the 2730, let me go back up. So fundamentally we agree limiting player spending too much is bad for everyone. Free-to-play need spenders to get new content. This is why I was saying it is a boundary violation from the end of the player to say, look, you're the rate disruptor, you're the ethical one, don't give us expensive things, just let us settle, let's give free-to-play a chance. You know what game gave free-to-play a chance? It's called Ethereum Restart. It's not a bad game, by the way. The underlying mechanics, it's debatable, okay, I know, I understand. But on the surface, it's the best user interface that I've ever seen anywhere in this type of game. The offers are not outrageous, there is not that much to buy. Whales, who self-proclaimed whales, by the way, I'm not saying they are whales, they are saying about themselves that they are whales. They complained that there were not enough things to buy in the store, and they wanted these things that they call tofus, which is called the perfect lettuce. So they wanted these things like more to buy more, but there was not enough in the store. And what favor did Ethereum give the player base? They don't even have a chapter 11 right now in the campaign. It says to be continued, and do you know what we're getting? AI generated stories, maybe narrated, maybe not even narrated. When they reveal a new character, it's like reading a comic book really slowly, but that comic book is like, I've seen this already because there are 5-6 scenes and they are traveling in between those scenes and the story is kind of basic. And I understand that it can be AI generated, not a problem. At the same time, new game modes, new content, this is what the community wants besides the PvP part. So if you limit yourself in terms of what you can offer, then you will also limit yourself in terms of oxygen that the business survives on. And you need oxygen to make the game good. And obviously you need to make a profit as well, because we all work for a profit. Let's put it this way. And if you are not profitable, then I get worried as a customer, because then I know that if there is no profit, then quality will be compromised one day. And maybe the game shuts down earlier than when I'm ready to finish telling my story to myself, because I'm not ready yet, or I have not mastered the game yet. And I still need some time to complete it, but you run out of oxygen, money, because you didn't have good enough offers, and some people are ready to support you right now when there is no game. See your offer. You need oxygen to survive. And if a player doesn't understand this, there are so many free games out there. So you know the places, I guess. And if not, then AI will point you towards Amazon, they will point you towards Epic, and any other places. Or you just go to Steam and check out what is free right now. You won't get the same quality, obviously, but that's another story. This is a free-to-play game. Free-to-play, pay-to-win game. Which means that the model says that based on Pareto and quadratic Pareto principles, let's say 4% of the players give you 64% of the revenue. Or 1.6% of the players give you, I don't know, 40-something% of the revenue. It's a strange model, but as a player, even if you're free to play, the quality of game that you're getting is oftentimes way higher than what you would otherwise get for free. And this needs those players as well who spend, let's say, $10,000 on the game to have a good time as well. Well, the modern gacha, by the way, the modern hero collector game, including Dragonair, including many others that got relaunched as well, they are not as predatory anymore as Diablo Immortal was, for example, or many other games. Because earlier what happened was that as a free-to-play player, you were the whale food. So your objective as a free-to-play player is to go there, try to challenge the whale, get them spend a bit more if you're really good, but your fate is inevitably that you're gonna get defeated. And this is your function in the ecosystem, in an old gacha. There is a term called lifestyle gacha. From 2024-25 onwards, this has become more and more mainstream, which means that it's fine to skip a day. Even if you make $50 worth of advancement in a day, it's fine to skip it. It's fine to skip 2 days. It's fine to go on holiday and come back and continue playing, and this prevents burnout. Obviously, there are the completionists, the achiever coping, people with achiever coping strategy. So the completionists will have a really hard time skipping a day. But those who are not completionists just integrate the game itself into their lifestyle. Sometimes they spend money, other times they spend time, other times they spend both. And in Raid, a lot of people say that the reason why they are hooked is that they want to challenge some aspects of PvE that is not too repetitive. And there is some. Because it's a machine, and you need to see how to tweak the machine to go to the hard dungeons, to complete faction wars hard, to complete all the missions for Marius or whichever other legendary hero, and this keeps people coming back. And by the way, there is Arena, by the way, there is Live Arena, a lot of people go there too, but it's mainly spender territory, except that, for example, in Raid, I will just show you how I play Live Arena, okay? So I go Live Arena, I need the currency basically, that's why I'm there. So Arena, Live Arena, there you go, it's right now available. Let me find an opponent, meanwhile we will continue. Doesn't really matter. So we just, this is the problem when you see that it takes a while, but usually we get it, let's say, in 20 seconds. And let me put it, no, actually, opponent is here. This is an opponent that I can beat, so I won't skip it. If I see a lot higher numbers, I exit immediately here. But I will continue this time, off screen, so I don't need to show everything in here. So let's continue in the meantime. So this was this part. You need oxygen to provide good content in the future. Let's go to 2920.
Experience. That's how you find the best results. So people who spend in the now, they're not sensitive to price, but they do need something. And that something is a reward for spending a lot. And in a lot of games, you see that in the form of a leaderboard tournament, and you see it being at the very top of the leaderboard. You see that level of social clout that affords you, especially if you're in a pantheon, as we call it, or a guild or a clan, and you have tags on your name. You see it in the exclusivity of the rewards. And so often the store itself doesn't show a big discount on these really expensive packs, but in reality, you're buying yourself a high probability of getting additional content bundled in with your purchase.
Super important here. High probability. Please disclose the exact probability if possible. What is this high probability? Raid does it almost perfectly. Almost, because, for example, in Clan Boss, you don't see the exact drop rates. It's empirical, but some people sometimes challenge this and they don't have the numbers to back it up. But drop rates in 2026 and beyond are gonna be super important. I will tell you why these are important. You need the percentages displayed, the probabilities, the odds of at least the rare items, the rarest few items. You want Godforge to be listed on Google Play Store as well as Apple Store as a 16+ game. Not an 18+ game, but a 16+ game. If you check out Raid Shadow Legends, let's see. So Raid Shadow Legends Google Play. I go to Google Play and visit Raid Shadow Legends right now. Age is 12+. So it's available for people for the age of 12+. And it's pay to win. I don't know if the 12-year-olds get an opportunity to buy, or it's only for 16-year-old plus. But what you're getting for 12-year-old plus is more advertising space. So if you have an advertising budget, then you need advertising space. What's coming in the European Union and what is already there in Netherlands as well as Belgium is that when you get a loot box that you don't even know what you're buying, in that case it goes to gambling territory. Now don't get me wrong, I don't agree with this definition that it's gambling. Because my definition for gambling is that you need to pay real money and you need to win something that is tangible enough in the real world to have some positive value, which can be money, which can be a car or anything else. Buying digital pixels and or vectors for that matter in a game has a highly inflated value. That's why when I was an official content creator for Era of Chaos for more than 1 year, I would say 1.5 years, or was it 1.5? No, it was a bit more than 1 year. I was unofficial for quite a while, and then I was asked if I can do the same thing as I have been doing as an official content creator. And this implies that they give some premium currency to my account as a reward. Not money, but a premium currency. In any contract, the value of that premium currency is 0, which means that based on the definition of many countries, it is not gambling. At the same time, the European Union is sharpening these definitions to the extent that as soon as you have a loot box, sooner or later we will have a regulation where you will end up having to raise that age limit to 18. And as soon as you raise the age limit to 18, you can only advertise in certain places and on certain hours. Both time targeting, geo-targeting is gonna be problematic. I've worked in an advertising company in the past, so I know all these terms. And also, it's not gonna be desirable in general for the places where you buy ad space that your ad is gonna be displayed. That's why transparency of probabilities is gonna be super important. Just be honest. It can be just small text, just like in case of RAID, the percentages, but you see that those percentages are there in RAID. You're a smaller studio, so it's less likely that this is gonna happen. In case of a larger studio, there is a mandatory child protection official who does this, or youth protection official to be exact. In a smaller studio, you don't have any of these, so you're fortunate enough that you don't face this type of regulatory issue. And that's a good thing for growth in general. But as soon as we have this, I don't know what the hell I am buying, then my response, and you can verify it with how I quit Era of Chaos, basically with the justification itself and why and what the process was and how I gave feedback about it, is that the more time and energy I spent on that specific game, because I believed in the brand, I believed in the story, the more disappointing the end is going to be in general, because you see that the odds are not even transparent. Now, in my specific story, it was not a disappointment in that sense, but it was a disappointment that I delivered them the same message 3 months before, the exact same message, and there was some traction to analyze this and so on. And as they were claiming that they were cleansing the game, these loot boxes started appearing. And we talked about the same thing 3 months before. And then I was like, okay, along with the trajectory and some other places, like content creator policy and some other things that changed to Chinese draconian, then I just found that I have no future in that community, because I don't want to be a part of that community. Transparency is important. Transparency is not against making money. If you're transparent in the odds. Some people just couldn't care less about the odds, but it is verifiable, and content creators make better content. That's it basically about this monetization part that is super important. Now, so as long as these percentages are open, it's fine. Let's continue.
And so when we try and ensure that we have a high satisfaction level for people spending in the moment with urgency, we want to make sure that that full loop has been paid off. So if you spent...
Exactly. Urgency has a price most of the time. I want it now, I pay premium. Nothing wrong with that. Let's go to 3240.
And we're coming out day one. Early access is going to be our brand new version of a game in this genre. So we have to leave space to grow, and whether that's in terms of a hero design and the sort of mechanics that come out the gate, in terms of our boss design, also in terms of pack design for monetizations, all of those things, they need space to be able to evolve over time, and for a player to feel like it's an enjoyable experience month after month as new content drops, whether it's in terms of packs and store, or whether it's in terms of content and or heroes, and how fun the game feels. So even when I've seen people like talk about the kits, actually Rachel, you did a really good video talking about some of the legendary kits we spoke about recently, and it was quite balanced actually. You were saying like if you're trying to compare all of these kits to a game that's been out for 7 years, and they've gone through that iteration stage a number of times to try and basically power creep their game and remain interesting to players. But we don't want to be there yet. we want to have space to grow into that. So
exactly, be careful with power creep. And you have an asset, it's called SAF, right? So consult that asset, and you have others as well, so I don't want to take away other people's merits, because there are others too. But this is exactly what Seth has been talking about for quite a while, didn't he? That if there is too much power creep, the game is not going to be enjoyable. And I'm connecting this with a couple of things. So if you remember, this is a spoiler of what I'm going to talk about quite soon. So if you remember back in the days, we were talking about one thing, that eustress, excitement, and distress. Too fast power creep causes distress, the bad kind of stress. You don't want to go there. At least don't want to stay there. I understand there is this thing called harvesting phase in like late stage monetization of a game, where you harvest whatever is still there out of the paying players to keep staying at the top. But if you start frustrating them on a weekly level with meta changes and crazy power creep and everything else, in that case, well, I will understand that the game is not for me anymore, so I move on to another game that is my type, which I have a very good track record of detecting when the game is going downhill. In fact, I detected the signs before, for example, Hero of Chaos started going downhill. It's kind of visible for some players who are sensitive to that. And for others, there are still players who, to this day, they are worried about their status, what artifact, did they get not Armageddon's Blade, you understand Armageddon's Blade if you played Heroes of Might and Magic, but right now they are collecting masks and hearts and these kinds of artifacts, and now come the god units, the godlike units. Whenever you see that there are godlike units appearing, not in raid because it's like mythical, but if there was a level above mythical, that would be crazy. But whenever you see godlike units are appearing, that's when you understand that it's a very late stage and the game has 1 to 2 years left. I hope not, and 1 to 2 years left from live service. They can also put it into Evergreen. That's also fine. But you see that too much power creep means that when I started that game 2 years ago, all the units that I've collected, they are called commanders or champions, are mostly irrelevant. Now we have things called divine heralds. There are 8 different units, and we have a team composition like in Dragonair, 8 different units plus a hero. Once they release 2 or 3 stashes of god units, and you're still there with your champions or commanders, then you're screwed. And you know what you have below commanders? R, SR, SSR, and UR, ultra rare. Ultra rare is some form of SSR, just like in Etheria, the LDSSR. And they are mostly useless units. And back in the days 5 years ago, people were playing for these units, and some people spent $1,000 on a Devil, for example. You know, Devil is a Heroes of Might and Magic unit. $1,000. And now you see that you get a Devil if you play the game for 11 days. Because you get 40 tokens per Sunday, and 80 tokens give you the Devil. And you get it for free. But the problem is that there is only one game mode where you can use the Devil. Because in most of the other game modes, especially in PvP, the Devil is gonna be useless and you need Divine Herald units. This is the level of power creep that frustrates a lot of players, because it's hard to stay at the top. And you know what I do when I see power creep like this? I hoard premium currency and I skip a generation. And then I strategically deploy my stash optimally, sometime in the future, in the distant future, let's say in 1 year. And then I go to the top. Because no one else does, almost no one else does that. Very few people do it. People are doing the same thing with their red shards in Raid, because they are speculating on Void Mythicals. As if they didn't add a new currency for this, by the way. But some people say, no, I'm not deploying those shards because I want Void Mythicals. And they speculate that they're going to use the same shard for Void Mythicals. Give me a break. Raid is smarter than this. So, this is what you don't want. And therefore, Simon says you have to leave the space. All the time you have to leave the space, right? This was Alonso versus Rosberg, by the way. And there were some times when he didn't leave the space himself either. But if you leave the space for growth, this means that you create a sustainable economy, and this is what you want. And this is why you have 3 alphas and a lot of theory crafters and a lot of smart talent. I had plans of analyzing Godforge content with AI, actually, so that agents play against each other. I have the competence for it. Not wipe coded, but real coded competence. We'll see. Because it's a very good study project.
So this genre of game is now pretty well established, right? So it's been flowing nicely for 12 years. And honestly, it was before that there were games that kind of like are a good sort of tell to the genre that's established. So there's a lot of work that's kind of just already done. You know, we do a breakdown of tons of different games, and the equivalent of our blue Aether Stone is going to be priced pretty similar to Braid's Blue Shard and Watcher of Realms equivalent of the Blue Shard. Like, they're all at a similar level. And, you know, you guys know, you played the games for long enough. If one's coming out for around $1 per Blue Shard, then that feels about right. Okay.
Exactly. And you know what? This feels about right. Players need this level of scarcity. A lot of people think that Raid is all about Hunger Games, scarcity, and you never have enough. And I was one of these people last year. Because on a new account, you keep on suffering and you never have enough. And I was living in that place. But after giving Raid a chance, because I wanted to quit the account after the Hell Hades competition in 3 months. And at the end, I chose not to compete in the competition, because what is my reward? Like, I'm not gonna be 23rd out of 60 something content creators, but 18th. Who cares? I went for the Fabian fusion. And I proved to myself that I can complete a fusion. And I got the units, and I figured out that, this is a game changer. And I pulled a mythical called Alas. And I finished the competition, and I continued. I still had problems, and I was really disappointed with Raid during the Tholin fusion, the Tholin Falbert fusion, because there was too much scarcity. And I figured out that Raid was working with the numbers in such a way that you need to pay money to get the 5-star soul of Tolin Folbert. But the 3-star soul was still attainable. No matter what you did, no matter how you did, it was a Titan event, and I analyzed the math of the Titan event, and it was just not possible to skip any of the Summon Rush / Champion Chase events. Because if you skip any of them, you get exactly 10 points left out of 1500 that you need. I created a video on that, and I figured I found the evil machinery behind it. But you know where I am right now. I was like, okay, then I will skip many fusions, and I will just focus on progression so that I increase my damage in some modes like Clan Boss. And today, if there is a Summon Rush Champion Chase, I'm just earning enough shards. I don't care. I even have the Sacred Shard earnings doing quite well, that sometimes I can afford, even without spending anything, I can afford to pull all the way to the top 10,000 points because I need mythical books, for example. So my situation changed as I earned my stripes in the game. I didn't have this knowledge, and I thought Raid was a really predatory, horrible type of game. But you can also choose to earn your stripes like I did. And it was a possibility. And it was because Raid told me that it was a predatory game with many of the actions. If you tell us a different story, maybe I start purchasing earlier. As soon as Raid fixes some of those issues, I will make purchases. That's how I work. And it's transparently that way. The reason why I'm free to play in Raid is that I'm not rewarding that type of machinery. So that's the idea. And the reason why those prices are there, it's by design. Not because of predatory design, no. But because that type of design produces two things. Actually, if you think dopamine manipulation is predatory because some people are excited just to get something because the drop rates are so horrible. If the drop rates were excellent, you would not enjoy the game. See King Arthur Legends Rise. You get everything in a few months and then you get out of here. Same thing is the problem right now with Dragonair, by the way, in my opinion. I played through Season 1 because I was interested in the story. I didn't compete in PvP, I played through the story. Or actually I did my minimum arena. And what happened was I pulled good enough units in Season 1. I got a team and I used that team from everything with 5 legendaries. And okay, I didn't complete everything, like all the dungeons, didn't max it out, but I completed the story and defeated all the bosses and everything. And it was just the same team. And whenever I clicked fight, I was like, oh no, fight again, and I'm hearing this time to get assembled or something. And it got repetitive and it got boring. Because I could choose to assemble an excellent team, because I had so much choice with my free-to-play journey. It's documented, it's in this channel. And Dragonair didn't give me a service of giving me so many units. If you want variety and abundance, then you play 2 accounts. Or you restart. But it's part of this genre. That you need to work with what you have. If you had bad luck, you had bad luck. That's all. And this kind of scarcity is kind of optimal because people don't get bored in the game. I'm talking about this not from a player advocate point of view, but from a game design point of view. So you need this type of level. And one more thing, it was also honesty, contrast bias. It's used in real life. Why shouldn't the game use it here? Many offers will be bad. That's fine.
And then you've got like kind of the next level up, which for us is going to be our purple one, so our eternal one. There's kind of like an acceptable price for that because of the heroes and stuff. So that kind of like market, I guess, sentiment is already built over a long period of time. And actually, it doesn't make a lot of sense for us to just try and completely break the mold and come up with a completely new system that, it's like, oh wow, we're building something that no one's ever seen before, because actually it's very disruptive So there's certain parts of the economy where we've already got a really good base and good understanding of what feels sensible for players, and you know, and then you get these kind of like great value packs that could come out at certain times of the year, which feel really good to buy because, you know, we're near Christmas, or, you know, it's Valentine's, whatever it is, or we're doing a big event drop. So, but then there's other things which they're probably a bit more unknowns initially. So an equivalent in Raid is Soul Stones. You know, they dropped that kind of like soul system, and I think they were finding their feet, and they probably still are to a certain degree on what actually sells. And you know, for certain people, you just get to a point where it's like, well, this is my level, and this is my level where I feel like I'm comfortable with it, and that's where I sort of come up with that. For me, it's like 50 cents for one of those smaller Soul Stones in Raid.
And you know what? Content creators, that's what we're here for. To analyze what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. For those who spend. For those who don't, then they analyze something else. This sentence was very long, by the way, so if you lost track of it, let me summarize, and let me show you my notes, by the way. It's also summarizing something else as well that wasn't said yet. So, games. You see what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, part of the economy, culturally anchored rates. And then there are calendar-based events like Valentine's Pack, and the weekly schedule, for example, or daily schedule of what is in the shop at what point in time, and you select out of those. But there is some verse shop where you can get everything that is to be sold. And this evolves organically. That's absolutely fine. And if it's used in real life, why should games be different? So if you can get a $1 million Godforge account and you take pride in it, it's your choice. Fully your choice. Now, if you have addiction problems and you didn't want to spend that much amount of money, and you spend 50 times than the amount that you budgeted for yourself, we can argue that it's not fully your choice. And in poker, casino, and other games as well, there is this thing called responsible gaming. Not gambling, but gaming. They call it like this. Back in the days, during my Malta days, like long time ago, I saw the lotteries of gaming authorities, Malta, for example, how they, what we need to be compliant. And in here, there is at least some sort of a lifeline or some help. If you spend 50 times the amount that you budget, and that money is missing from other places in your family budget, then there is a problem, and it is super important to go and clear that problem. And I don't have an answer in that situation what makes the most sense. But as this is especially why you don't want a game like Godforge to appear predatory. But you want Godforge to appear professional and also make money. Because if it makes money, in that case, this is not a studio that sells you some really bad things. If you played the alpha, if you saw the alpha, you saw some of the design decisions, some of the other decisions that is really innovative and people know what they are doing. So as long as we allow organic growth, that's absolutely fine. Many offers will be bad, some will be exceptional. Let content creators analyze it and players make decisions. Those who take bad deals because they want things now, let them have the bad deals, not a problem. It's fine. Because it's their decision. As long as it's their decision. If not, that's a different situation. In that case, consult a professional immediately, as soon as you can. And I would recommend staying away from this genre in general. I understand and I know that not everyone has the level of self-discipline that I have, for example, that I can basically walk away from a game on any day as soon as it's culturally not compatible anymore with what I stand for. On the day. Even if there is some exciting thing coming next week. In Era of Chaos, for example, there is gonna be a server merge next week. And my guild could have taken first, second, and third in that server merge. But we quit this week. For a reason, all of us. So this is what culture influences. And it's not because we couldn't care less about the $100 packs. There are many $100 packs in the store. There have been for 2 years. But as soon as it says chance to get one of these and the probabilities are not disclosed, and you see that others buy sometimes, and then it creates a domino effect. That, oh, if he bought it, then I buy it. Oh, I didn't get the same result that he got. Oh, then I have to buy one more. Another $100 down. But then the other player figures out that I bought a second one. And then the other player buys the second one too. And it's a domino effect. And you don't know what you're buying. This is when it becomes not just unethical, but also illegal in many places. And be careful with that. So, Minigame is the next one. So in case of Minigame 4140, they were testing certain things. And this is also interesting.
Yeah, what's quite interesting, it's not really necessarily related to what you said, but we've got this mini game that's running right now. And one of the elements for us, one of the things we wanted to do was just to test if having like a premium section to that would actually drive people to convert into a payer. And I think, Corey, the stats you said to me was for a game, generally, if you've got a paying community around sort of 4 to 7%, then you're doing really well. You've got like a good number of your players are coming in and are prepared to part with their hard-earned cash to try and have a more enjoyment of the game. Now, the mini game, pretty easy to complete in terms of getting a good number of rewards and high-value rewards for Godforge as a non-payer. So that's something we really wanted to make clear. And obviously, if you are someone who comes in on the premium, really what it's doing is it's giving you a lot more opportunities to try and find a hero that you really want to start the game with. That's really the upside from premium in the mini game. Plus, you have to be way less focused on doing the tasks to get to the end fast, right? So there was like the two payoffs.
Get to the end fast, way less focused. So the first part of the description is all about choice and not pain, although you can argue that it is painful if you don't get what you want. The second part is get to the end fast. I have tested the minigame and I have finished the minigame currency collection. I haven't finished summoning. At the same time, I'm seeing already that it's doable with relatively minimum effort. So the game design, the pay to win and the free to play journey was kind of in parity. This parity means that you can have a fun time with the free to play version. You start slowly and then you accelerate more and more as you unlock more heroes. But even with the 2 slots, you can finish the whole game in less than 20 days without bugs. Actually, no, you have to log in 20 times to get the completion, but the currency can be acquired in less than 20 days. The reason why I was worried about the minigame when it just got launched at the beginning was that I thought that in order to complete it, you have to do these 1 minute and 5 minute quests and 15-minute quests. And that would have been really evil from the end of the studio, because this would then be friction that is not meaningful, because who in their right minds goes there every 5 minutes or 10 minutes to get 20-30% more rewards and enjoys the process for 20 days or 2 months or 1.5 months? No one. So they intentionally designed the game in a way that everyone will get all the currency, as long as you're reasonable, like you log in once, twice. It's like a good enough idle game. And there is no real upside of doing this every single minute. You get there a bit faster, but you have to log in for 20 days anyway, and you get the currency faster. So what the $10 pack offers is choice, not pain. The pain of missing out on currency and not being able to get the legendary blueprints, or the pain of missing out on, oh, I don't have the currency yet, so it either appears again or never appears. That pain is not that much there, because you still get something that is really valuable and really good, and at the moment no one knows how these things will behave in the game in real life. Unfortunately, no one actually the team knows, but no content creator who is outside the inner circle knows this, or no player. So this minigame is not that bad than I originally thought, because I thought that in order to complete it you have to be there every minute for 20 days, or you buy the $10 pack. You know why this impression came to me? Because Hero of Chaos would have done it in the last so it was an excellent game for 5 years plus, and then around May they like started screwing everyone over. So last May until like October, and then it was like really bad already, and then I gave them feedback that, listen, if you don't rebuild trust, then it will be over. And that feedback was not welcome because it was not loyal to the management. And I found myself outside the content creator circle within a month, which was fine with me, because if you get a few fairly like small premium currency to your account, I didn't do it for the premium currency. I wanted to play a good enough game, so it was not an option for me to play a worse game. And then in January, the rest of the player base found out the same thing that I found out like way before, because they were feeling it on their own. And this is when you see that when you create friction and motivate based on pain and not based on choice, that's when things go south really quickly. Quickly meaning in a matter of a few months it can collapse. 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. And you see revenue dropping, not initially because those metrics can still be inflated, but eventually. Because let's say you do a Christmas shop and you say, oh, it's Christmas, or whatever, Valentine's Day or whatever, and buy this, buy that, excellent offer, and you cash in on the holiday. You know what happens the month after? Maybe you don't want to know it, but if you have sales experience, you understand. Feast and famine. And the feast and famine model, you will have more and more famine if you discount things too much, because then you bias the player base. Oh, we'll wait 3 months, they're gonna discount when Independence Day comes or whatever. That's why some of the raid discounts are so horrible. There is a reason for it. Scarcity. And scarcity focuses players. But don't do it like too scarce. Industry standards, I understand that you know it better than I do. Alright, so that's the minigame. And that part turned out to be okay. And obviously you have more summons, so you can get the hero that you want. Or you can get lucky from less options. Nothing wrong with that. But one thing, 20% was your conversion ratio as far as I remember. Yes, I remember because it was in my notes. 20% conversion rate. This is not because that minigame was so good. This is because of the community and the trust that you built over those 5 years. So if I did the same minigame, maybe a bit better, and I haven't put in those 5 years of community building, and I didn't have a network of content creators working with me who did the same, and all of them channeling all the players to Godforge, and you fought with them to make raid better yourself, And sometimes you succeeded, sometimes you failed, but you were with your player base and your community. Then no matter what you do, people will buy it. This is the secret sauce. Okay, so it's, yes, the game is better than the average. It's better thought out, but the community is what keeps things alive. And if Raid continues with its green forest as it is doing now, that you have to spend half an hour plus every single day to complete it on normal or hard, sometimes even on worst days it's 1 hour, it will just alienate its own player base unless they start automating or retiring content, and they need those real background battles where you cannot just do live arena while doing something else, but you need to close the client. Because we don't want, in 2026, I don't think that many players want on mobile a game that is so possessive that you cannot even close the client while it's calculating. It actually doesn't even calculate the battles. You know the result of the battle in a matter of a fraction of a second. And you know that the player has to wait for 2 minutes because it's part of the game. Optimize your team. That's positive friction because there is a stake in it. You don't want to waste time. So there is a stake in the optimization. But that stake should not eat into the battery of your phone. Because maybe you want your phone to be there for you for the whole day. So this is the idea about the minigame and the conversion. And your secret is the community, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that's the minigame. And the premium section converts because the community trusts you. And this trust is there as long as you're honest. You can do string packs. You can do all these things. As soon as there is the smallest backlash from the community, I'm seeing feedback systems that they will allow you to mess up. And that's a huge thing. But as soon as you see the feedback that there is a backlash, it's not like Chinese culture, oh, how can I save face? How can I save face? Who can I fire right now and say it was his fault? And what can I do so that I save my face? And how can I do damage limitation? This is just not you. And that's why players stick with whatever you do. Because if you mess something up, or your team messes something up, then someone steps, who is responsible for communication in this situation, someone said, we messed it up, we own it, apologies, these are the corrections. Please give us more feedback so that we can be better. We can mess up, and players will give you the chance to mess up. Some will leave fine. But this is Western business culture in general. And you want to go this way. And then the string packs, the $100 packs, everything is fair game. One day it's gonna be, if the dollar gets inflated in the way how it got inflated, one day $200 packs will be the standard. Sorry to bring people the bad news, but by that time $200 will be worth the same amount as $100 are worth now. Skipping content. Paying to skip content. Let's see.
Collaboration that forms something like that, so that it's like we want for it to be a higher possibility to get this particular hero because we think people are going to enjoy it, but we don't just want to say buy the hero for $100 because we want to make loads of money. Like there just kind of needs to be, and actually it's not the fun of this type of game. In the root of why we play these games, that's not what it is. You know,
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of this kind of like black market account selling in Raid. It's like I could come in and spend $100 and I'll get these 5 legendary champs that I really wanted.
Horrible, isn't it? As a player. And you know why? Because they are all players. They understand. They get it. And you know what? It is credible. Because back in the days, I didn't play Raid, but for some reason, YouTube kept on giving me Raid content. Because I was playing Year of Chaos back in the days. And I was doing running, and in between, so usually when I do jogging, I listen to either an audiobook or YouTube. When I listen to YouTube, in that case, I have like 4, 5, 6 content pieces prepared that I want to listen to, not watch, but listen to, because watching and jogging are not compatible. And if you have broken your arm before, then you understand why. But usually I do my content consumption in a way that I need to educate myself on certain things, let's say investments. And then I finish my investments and, oh, there is this video offered. What is this raid, and this crazy guy is pulling shorts, and what is going on? So I click and I check out. And then I'm hearing that I think back in the days there was some pay to win massacre, that people thought that they could get something for free to play, and then you were forced to pay because the math didn't add up. Or there was Xena back in the days, not Hercules, but Xena, the warrior princess or whatever that is, who was not welcome in my literature class when I asked about it. Oh, and yeah, we're learning about Hercules, but what about Xena? Okay. And it was like a $50 champion or something back in the days. But you couldn't get her in any other ways. What is that? Well, a status symbol. I paid, so I got it. But is Xena usable? I've seen her in the arena like twice, 3 times in total, but not too frequently. Here is a hero pay, and that's it. They messed up the turtles a bit as well, although the leaks were kind of correct, but at the end people were so tired that, oh, just let's get over with. I have everything and more already collected. Just give me the event so that I can get that goddamn turtle. But no one got Shredder, except if there was some tournament that you won, and that's the pay to win thing, because if you have seen that fallacy type of that there is an auction and you bid, and if you win the bid, you win the prize. But if you're second in the bid, you also have to pay, but you get nothing. Then the correct entry point is 0, and that's how I'm handling some of these events. And by the way, I have won not 1 and not 2 of these tournaments, bidding tournaments, not with Summon Rush or Champion Chase, but with Energy. So when you have Champion Training Tournament, I have a very good win rate. I think very close to 100%. In fact, it was 100%, because if it was I got too much opposition, I realized it on day 1 or day 2 and I quit. And I just took the rewards. But when there was, let's say, some opposition that I could handle, I use double knockout, triple knockout strategies and I win. But when you have short pulling, someone can come at the last second and pull a crazy amount, or not last second, but last few minutes, and pull a crazy amount of shorts. And hint, this is where your true background battles are gonna be important. Because in true background battles, what happens is that if people only log into their device in the last 1 or 2 minutes of the tournament, and then they administrate all the background battles, then players can jump in tournaments last second. And you don't want that for the credibility of the tournament itself. Because they don't understand that you have, let's say background battles, and you do everything that I said as well, that, oh, please let us use the mobile client properly while the background battles are going on. But you didn't think about this one thing. And then you screw over the tournament. Etheria solves it in a way that you can do a maximum of 10 background battles. But maybe the last 10 minutes of the tournament is a no-go zone for these types of background battles. I don't know. That you pause those background battles for the last 10 minutes, for instance. And you have to be there to grind for the fairness of the game. This may be a possibility. You know it better. But this $100, and you know what why I'm doing this analysis? This kind of thinking that I'm hearing. Because this is level 1 thinking only. That I'm happy as a customer that even level 1 tends to be fair. because these people are all players. You know what level 2 predatory thinking would be? When you devalue everything, telling the player base that if you don't get this $100 hero right now, then you'll be screwed for the next half year. In Era of Chaos, any new hero generation is like this. It has been like this for a while. I accepted this. And you know what kept me going for 2 years? I understood this part of the game is not for me, but those people have to support the game so that it keeps on going. They get revenue, fine. And I acknowledged that I'll be beaten for about a year by those people. And I understood this, and I had no problems with it. But once you accelerate the hero release, in that case, it just becomes a crapshoot. And let's say you're screwed for the next half year if you don't give me $100 now. Or Titus was the same thing. I'm not sure if it was Nub or something else, or someone else, who had to leave a clan because he didn't get Titus and couldn't contribute to the Hydra part. And I'm like, that's a bit too much. Although Titus could be fused for free-to-play as well, but he just didn't have resources at that point in time or time. Shredder, same thing. Shredder is not the best champion in the world, but he has huge collection value. And if you can just pull Shredder from Void Shards, who knows how much you need to spend? 1,000? We've all heard these stories. My budget was 500, but I spent 3,000 because I wanted to get this hero in my collection. That's the difficult part. Okay, moving to the end. 50. That's my last comment. And by the way, watch the whole thing.
It is it's like an objective truth that people enjoy banners, and
this is all I want to comment. It is an objective truth that people enjoy banners. I disagree, but I also agree. So let's see why. By the way, this is not context sensitive, so this was just something that I took out, but it's not because it says we don't enjoy banners, and by the way, we do at 50 and 50-30 we don't. You don't need context to understand this statement, so I didn't pull something out of context. You can verify it by watching the video. It's just this statement. And I'm debating this statement. I tend to accept it inside this genre because if I come here expecting no banners, I am the fool in the room. So in this genre there is scarcity, and the banners give you some guarantees. Who wouldn't want order in chaos? So relatively, who wouldn't enjoy banners? Everyone enjoys banners more than having no banners, if that was your opportunity or option. But I can play a regular game, not like a pay-to-win game. And in that case, if I could say, do I want banners and a limited number of pools? Or do I want no banners and a choice? Or maybe earning the units without the gacha system? Then I would say, if I wanted to be honest, any gacha system is predatory by definition. Not bad or not really bad predatory, but there is that predatory element that it can lure people in and spend hundreds, thousands, 10,000 without them wanting to spend that amount of money. And if you knew that you could earn that champion or hero or god by just completing the missions like Arbiter, Marius, whoever else, and you can spend money on accelerating the missions if you choose to with resources, or you can just earn your stripes anyway. And in some game modes you have to earn your stripes, there are no other ways. Then you play a regular game instead of this type of game. But here there are also positive parts about it. A positive part is that it's like real life. Some people pay more, they have more resources, right? Literally because they have a higher wallet or more in their wallet. And it's unfair, yes. Life is unfair. It conditions for life. But at the same time, there is also the other thing, that no regular game produces the same amount of engagement metrics when your survival depends on doing the right thing at the right time. Because if you don't do it, then you will miss out on it. Okay, this is the definition of FOMO. I understand it's a toxic thing. That's why I said any banner can be viewed as predatory. In absolute terms. In relative terms, banner versus no banner, I would choose banner any day. Other than just total randomness. Gacha system or no gacha system, I would argue that the same game is somewhat better without gacha system. Assuming that the game has the same resources. And this is where I'm really cautious. Because if there is no gacha system behind the game, then the same game will not collect the same amount of revenue than with the gacha system. And the revenue guarantees that eventually the game will become better because of the extra investment in the game. Even if the parts of the money will be taken for profit. Even then. Okay. So my debate comes from whether it's a genuine enjoyment or not. That's another part. Numbers don't lie, not like but lie. Scarcity focuses your attention whether you like the game or not. That's what we talked about. So customers tend to stay with a game for longer. If this is a good thing or a bad thing depends on one factor. When players end playing, do they regret time and money spent on the game, or they get a sense that they got a good value out of their money? So I don't exactly know how much I spent on Era of Chaos in total, because I had multiple accounts. But I know that it was less than $1,000, and I would estimate it to be somewhere between $500 and $400 on all the accounts. Because I did a 2024 playthrough VIP 4, 2025 playthrough VIP 7, I also did a VIP 0, and I had a VIP 9 account. So that was the amount. It's like I spent more money on iRacing, which is a racing game, subscription-based racing game, not free to play at all, in total, than on Era of Chaos. But at the same time, that amount of money, if you look at the game currently in beginning 2026, it's not worth it right now. But if you view those 2 years, the progression, everything that I went through, the optimization mastery, was worth the amount for me. This is not justification or hindsight bias that I don't want to lose face and I'll somehow rationalize that it was worth for me. But if you check it out, if I spent the same amount of time doing other things, those other things would have cost at least the same amount of money, if not more. You can argue that I could have read, let's say, books, for example, and I could have become smarter in some places, or I could have built another business. But there are stages in life, and I'm using these stages consciously, when you run really hard for a business, and there are some years when you're like, okay, let's settle, let's gather experience, let's brainstorm, and let's attack the next thing. And during these times, these games are excellent to spend 1 hour a day, 2 hours a day maximum, I would say, but some time a day. And that's why Raid is predatory in my opinion, because it wants 3 hours of your day and on many days, especially with Green Forest. So if you look back at your progression and you're satisfied, and I am satisfied with Era of Chaos, by the way, discounted the times that were in the last few months, in that case, the money was worth it. And by the way, I had a spending freeze on Era of Chaos around like August or July, when dark patterns started appearing everywhere. And I was like, I cannot recognize this game anymore. It was so good before. And it was not because I got bored out of it. It was because of those dark patterns appearing everywhere. Like, for example, suppose you buy something in the store. They fixed it, by the way, not too long ago after consistent feedback. You buy something from the store, and then they rescramble all the items so that you cannot find it. Now, this looks like an innocent type of thing that, okay, you chase that thing that, let's say you buy, it's called Arcana, or you buy 10 of it, and it costs like 600 premium currency. You click, and it disappears, and you don't know if you need to scroll up or down. It's crazy. And then you find the second pack, and you buy it on the same day. Fine. But there was a time when there were artifact icebreaker packs and things like this. Or they were called Vidomina packs, for whatever reason. And they bought the artifact, and the shop reordered the packs. And for the second time, for $47.90 or €47.99 or $40, they purchased the wrong artifact. But then there was no refund. Actually, there was refund because at least there was that level of honesty from the end of the team that if it was a mistake, then they refunded that. But that was like a crazy experience. Okay. So I promised that, well, didn't promise, but said that there was no more content, but there was one more: regional pricing.
Remember that despite us really trying to play with the big boys here, we're quite a small studio, and our early access is our kind of like first steps into this world of trying to compete. So some of the more sophisticated systems that you'd need to pull that off really effectively, we're not going to be having on early access, certainly not. And actually, it's one of the reasons why I obviously we've got this community of players that already want to come in and play the game. But actually, when we go out and market to new players, we're very focused on those kind of like English-speaking regions that we already know are kind of like additive to our community. So, and in those regions, we will also know the main currencies they purchase with and how exchange rates sort of feel between them. But ultimately, they're generally classed as like tier 1 regions, and it would be like the US, parts of Europe, perhaps some of the like Australasia, if you like. So those regions would be pretty comfortable with a pretty similar price point.
Yeah. So regional pricing is when you go from one place to another. So this was a 51. So you go from one place to another. And by the way, how can I go to another country right now? I use a VPN. And then if I see that the price is 50% lower because of regional pricing, then I might say, okay, can I purchase that there? And the answer is gonna be no, I cannot. At least with the most payment methods. Because payment method handling, and that comes from my poker past, by the way, payment methods like PayPal, for example, Google Pay with your credit card or anything else, they register the origin of your country, and it is supported by a phone number. And if you can register a payment method for, let's say, Thailand, and it's not impossible that you cannot, then you will get the Thailand price. If you can an easy way to save money is if you had an American payment method. Why is that? It is EU VAT system, value added tax. Because no one would expect that, let's say there is a $50 pack, and suppose that the exchange rate between dollar and euro is 1 to 1. And there is a $50 pack, there is a €50 pack. And there is no sales tax in the United States. But if you go to let's say Hungary is the worst out of all countries, you have 27% VAT, sales tax. Do you expect a company to make that amount of less money out of customers there and just swallow the tax? It doesn't make any sense. And this is why you see, for example, in Era of Chaos, that you have a $40 pack in artifacts. I said it not too long ago. And this is equal to a 48 euro pack, even though the euro is stronger than the dollar. It's because of the VAT, value added tax. I mean, I'm fine with it because, for example, if the company is predatory and they screw you over, not Godforge in this specific case or Fateless, but let's say another one, they screw you over, then what do you do in Germany? You go to consumer protection. That's one option. Your bank can get the money back for you. In the European Union, there is a right... Well, actually, if you open the pack, you've consumed it, so you cannot get it back. But if it is fraudulent, you can get it back. Back in the days, there was an American free plus shipping type of service, where what I figured out is that I got a book for $10 or something. And that was theoretically the shipping price, but in practice it was the price of the book and the shipping was kind of almost free. So it was a fairly priced book. And then there was this opt-out checkbox called Inner Circle membership. Free for 7 days. But $30 after the 7 days. And it was opt-out. Opt-out means that it's already checked. And I forgot it. Normally I detect this in no time, but in that specific case it was such a small text and in such an odd place that I didn't even see it. And then I figured out that someone charged me $30. And I was like, what the hell is this? I went to my bank. I gave them a screenshot of trying to make the purchase again, but I didn't make the purchase again, of course, because I had the book already. I told them, listen, this is fraud. This is a scammy type of method, the opt-out, because in the European Union you need to have opt-in, and any data protection person will tell you this. And I didn't expect this, and I'm not intending to use the service. I never intended it. Please do a chargeback. They did a chargeback. I got the money back straight away. In some other countries, good luck trying this. They just say, oh, I don't care. And by the way, this was not a governmental entity. This was a bank. I can go to consumer protection. I have access to foundations that are actually journalists. In some companies, there is a youth protection officer. In other companies, there is a data protection officer who is forced to answer your data protection claims in 30 days. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a bad customer in general. Some really shady and really bad things need to happen for me to do these things, as retaliation to protect my rights. And these rights cost money. And this is why I tend to accept that others get away with a purchase for $40 and I'm paying 48 euros. But I live in a free world, or at least as free as possible. I can use it as a free enough world for my purposes. And you don't want to pay this instead of the players, because you will have more trouble with a German if there is an issue than with, let's say, some other country where they have no rights. And that's why sales tax is meant for the people to pay. Alright, and we're done. So this is a long video. Let me know in the comments what you think. I wanted to be accurate, and I also wanted to tell most of the things that were in my mind. So obviously we didn't go through every single thing. I still recommend going through the whole podcast from start to finish, because this was a good one. And with this, we're finishing this semi-reaction video, because it was a bit scripted in a way that I knew what I was gonna talk about. And maybe sometime in the future in a different video we'll talk about my points, but I think this is a whole video in itself, and it's time to stop the analysis, at least for now. See you in the next video.